talking to me just about everything. But we appreciate you coming in here. And I see you are adequately prepared for sure. You brought me the paperwork that I want. So I'll let you start us off and we can go from there. Sure. Please push the button on that because we do have some of our members will be just following along while we're.
Okay. All right. First of all, we've got a big group today because we're preparing for transition. We've got our board president, Spence Flatguard, incoming deputy director, Tommy Goodwin, Shelby Tipton, our HR director, Michael Morris, director of the two museums, and short timer, Robert Benson, outgoing deputy director. I want you to know all of these people because you'll be seeing them a lot over the next few years. Yeah, we'll never see Robert again. He's going to turn off his phone. But he's done a great job for us and we're sorry to see him go most days. I always start by thanking y'all. You've been very, very good to us over the last decade and helped us do really big things that we're proud of, and we're very, very grateful to you. Always at the top of our request is salaries, and I'm going to ask Shelby to quickly run through how we came up with that number.
Okay, so the first part of our salary request is for implementation of our salary strategic plan. We worked really closely with the State Personnel Board to design this plan with the goal of very incrementally moving our staff members toward the market rate for their role. We do this based on priority levels that we work with our administration team to set. Priority 1 individuals are those who are in really high level mission critical roles, who are very successful or who have been with the agency in their current function for more than 10 years. These individuals are eligible for the highest in-range adjustment, which is between 6 and 7%. The second priority level is folks who are just really successful in their role and who have been at the agency for more than 6 months. This has been really successful for us in utilizing the in-range adjustment system set up by MSPB. It's also been really successful in retaining our amazing staff members, so we're really proud of that. So we're asking for funds to implement another small round of increases for our staff members. I'd like to point out too that most of our staff members fall in that priority 2 level, which is about a 3 to 5% increase. So we try to be very practical about the way that we implement this and do it very carefully. The second part of our request is for positions. We're requesting 14 new positions to help us with some of these major projects. We know that that's a lot of positions to request, so we are sure to list them in priority order based off of the things that are most critical for our work. All of these would be very helpful for us this year, but I'd like to point out just a few that are really important to us. The first on your list is a project manager to work at Historic Jefferson College in the field school. This is a new project for us. We started the Preservation Trades Field School last summer and had a pilot program. It's been phenomenal, but it's growing beyond our capacity, and we need a full-time person to manage this program. The second highest priority position is to someone to add to our fundraising team. We really prioritize seeking private funds for these big projects, and that'll help us expand our fundraising team from 2 to 3 individuals. The last positions I'll highlight are 4 new positions to add to the 2 Mississippi Museums maintenance team. Right now that's managed on contract and we're not satisfied with the work that the contractor is performing. So we'd like to add 4 positions that will be managed by our operations team, who is really successful. And that way we can ensure that the 2 museums stays extremely clean and beautiful for all of our guests. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you have about our salaries, personnel, vacancies, anything you'd like to know.
No, I do appreciate the detailed SPB sheet in your request.
Yeah, thank you.
I think it's very important because unfortunately I see a lot of general requests come in here and just say, give us the money, we'll figure out what to do with it. I think it's very important that we look at it and we continue to focus on the people who are most needed and the people who are in most need. And that's usually your lower end that are out there just barely making it. So we want to be sure that, to be honest with you, we want to be sure that our people can make a decent living and support their families while also doing the mission of archives as a whole. So I appreciate the detailed list here, and I think that Rob does too. So I'm not going to stop you. I'm going to let you keep moving, and I'll probably have some questions at the end.
Okay, great. The rest of our request focuses on our special projects. And our highest priority this year is Grand Village of the Natchez Indians. Y'all have gotten us started with that, and $9 million will close it out. We do have some possible other funding sources coming in, and if they do come in, we will let you know. They're from the city. We're building a new museum there, and we will, before the end of the next session, we will sign a construction contract. And so we've got to have that money in hand. And again, that will finish the project. Windsor Ruins is already finished. This was our second, and it's nearly finished. Kriegler Park, that's the demolition of the Welty Library, which you can see in here. It's underway. And y'all are helping us with the demolition and the site work, and then we're raising $5 million at least for the creation of the park. So there will be a phase 2 later, but this is our last request for the demolition and the creation of the park. Phase 2 relates to work on the surrounding streets, and we've been in touch with CCID on that, and the move of the cell tower.
So the 2 million here is still demolition cost.
No, yeah, demolition and site work. Yeah. Our biggest request is for the new visitor center at Vicksburg Military Park, which was, I to say this delicately, but I feel like I need to point it out, a project that y'all assigned us. And that's why I really point out the importance of Grand Village. Is I don't want Grand Village, which is a site the state has had for decades, to get lost in this Vicksburg request. But we're thrilled to have that project. We think the potential impact there is enormous. And the project is going really well. We're underway with the architecture firm. We own the property. We're underway with the plans for the building and the exhibits. And $20 million will allow us to keep moving for another year. And we will be signing construction contract for this project too. So we've really got to have that 20 million this year.
What's the total that we're expecting on that?
The total projected cost of the project is 120. There are lots of other funding sources for it. We're working with Manning McPhillips to bring in federal money. Our goal for federal money is 20 million. We have 4 million in the budget that has yet to pass. And we're going to keep at it year after year. Our next request is 12.
Okay.
And then the Friends of the Vicksburg Military Campaign or Park have committed to raising at least 30 privately. And they're underway with that. They have a couple of big commitments already that will be announced soon. And then the city and the county will both come in at whatever level they can.
Okay.
So the total state commitment, we anticipate being 70. Y'all have done 16 already, plus a million to the Friends, which is not part of the total for this project. So 20 million this year will keep us moving. And then the last and the lowest priority is at Jefferson College. We've been funding the restoration of the 8 buildings there through we've got some private money and some federal money, but also the Community Heritage Preservation Grant Program, which I'll ask Tommy to talk about in a minute. But the reason that we are requesting 1.6 million this year is that we secured a $1 million NEH grant. That's a matching grant. And in order to draw that down, we have 5 years and we need 800,000 every year. And this is year 2. So again, that's our lowest priority this year, but next year we'll come back for 2.4 with some more urgency because we don't want to let that federal money go. All right, CHPG. Tommy, you want to say a word about that?
Mr. Chairman, there's a bill that's been dropped in both sides of the legislature to change out how the CHPG program, how the funding goes. The way the bill has been and the way it's been set up is the money goes to DFA, but pretty much all the work, the administering of the fund is with Archives and History. And so DFA and Archives then have to go back and forth to get the money transferred. That part of it's been a little bit of a source of frustration for both agencies over the years. And so we've been in communication with DFA. They're on board with this. And some legislation's been introduced in both houses to swap out DFA for archives and for the money just to go straight to archives.
And I know you're familiar with this program. It's been around many, many years, puts money into courthouses, school restorations across the state. Last year, through an oversight, it was not funded. The language was in our appropriation bill, but the money wasn't in the transfer bill.
I
So
have that noted here that it slipped in 24 on us.
good. So it has for many years been funded at 5 million a year. We're requesting 10 million this year. And to be honest, we had been trying to get the number up because 5 million is just not enough for the needs around the state. So what we would love to see is 10 million, which will help us fund some of those projects that were stalled from last year. But also we'd love to stay at 10 million from now on. That's a more reasonable number for the amount of need around the state. But that project is great, and we really appreciate the steady support for it over the years. Last thing I'm going to say, and Spence may want to say a word, is at the bottom, there's a paragraph, as there is every year, about the money we're bringing in from other sources. We work really hard to raise private money. And what's our private total this year? Over 2.3 million in just ongoing gifts and grants and memberships. I mentioned the 4 million in the federal budget. We are really focused on fundraising and have been very, very successful at it. Spence takes the lead on it. But we want to come over here and ask for as little as possible, knowing that we have done as much as possible to bring in other funds. And last thing, that 43 million total, I would like to point out that of that, 20 is for Vicksburg and 10 is for the CHPG grant money that goes around the state.
Yeah, I'll just add, Mr. Chairman, we really do hyper focus on fundraising with private sector money and at the federal level, to leverage what y'all are doing. There's certain things it's hard to raise money for, and y'all are generous, like knocking down a building. Donors don't want to give to that. They want to build something. So when y'all give to help knock down that library and do the site development, that helps. And then we can go raise, when you get that 2 million, we can go raise 5 million to build a park. So it's important. And also these projects are important, for Mississippi's history, but we view them, and if y'all would view them, as really economic development projects, because all these projects, Natchez and Vicksburg and courthouses around the state on towns and cities around Mississippi, what they do is it enhances local tourism, and people from around the country come. And when I'm in Southwest Mississippi, I see car tags from Ontario and all over the country. And if we can build this at Vicksburg, they might, instead of just spending a couple hours at the battlefield, spend the night like they have in Gettysburg. And so we view it as an investment in economic development, and it's not build it and they'll come. They're already coming. We just want them to come spend the night and go out to eat and spend a few days in Mississippi. And then, as we all know, once you come to Mississippi, you fall in love with it and you come back. So these projects are really economic development projects too. So thank you for y'all's investment in Mississippi and in us.
Well, I appreciate that, and we're thankful Senator Berry made it. He had got in some traffic. I think they had a wreck somewhere, and he had to detour around. So I'm gonna let him catch up, and I'm gonna ask a few other questions for you. This fundraising position, second priority on your list, do you anticipate that position? I would anticipate that you expect it to make its at least its salary back in the fundraising efforts.
Yeah.
But we expect it tenfold over that to try to continue to move your efforts forward, right?
Yes, I mean, certainly we have a 2-person fundraising office, and they bring in far, far more money than they are paid.
I understand.
Along those lines, what I'm finding is a lot of it are foundation dollars, and that's intensive in terms of finding the foundations, doing the grant applications and that type thing. But once you identify them and do a good application, that, significant funds can come from that. So
That's right. And it's also cultivating our members who are smaller dollar donors, but very important to us. And they're our our development team is really focused on growing that members program.
Um, you have seem to have something that other agencies don't have. I don't really see any pens that are open. Are you doing pretty good on your numbers?
We are.
Okay.
Right now, we have 13 total vacancies, and of those, 9 are actively recruiting right now. We only have 2 true vacancies. We've worked really hard to reduce our number of vacant positions and very strategically fill those roles.
Robert and I, as old timers, have had to adjust to the fact that, your vacant pens used to be your flexibility, and we have come to understand that that's not the way people see it going forward. So fortunately, Shelby is young and smart, and she is totally on board with keeping our pens to an absolute minimum.
Well, it seems that apparently people must like working there for some reason.
It's because of these people.
Well, it speaks for your agency that you're having trouble. You're not having trouble keeping people there, so that's great. Although I do see that you are asking for the additional 14, and you anticipate that we can pick those up rather quickly if you are awarded some of those.
It always takes a minute. We put them in priority order, and some of them I think we could hire pretty quickly. But there's always a little
That's
bit
right.
in process time.
I can understand.
I'll add, we do work with our leadership team when we request these positions. They have to submit a justification and a job description, which really helps us move forward quickly when we do get the positions.
Do you work, let me ask you this, do you work with the Governor's Job Fair Network? Do you do any recruitment through that?
You don't, not right now.
Okay, well, maybe we'll start seeing that expand a little bit more, but the
Yeah.
Governor's Job Fair Network, employment security, you can touch base over there, and I'm sure you can find somebody to help you with
Come
that.
back next year, the answer will be
The goal is to eventually push our agencies out there before these prospective employees and let them know that we have positions for you, so.
Right. I know we do, we do a lot of that kind of thing with the universities. So they're really aggressive about recruiting, and I really appreciate that.
I think it's underutilized, and I'd love to see us can push it a little bit further
That's great.
out there because all we've got to do is get the jobs out there before the kids. Maybe we can get some more back in there. Senator Barry, you got any questions? This was an easy one, so. So Rob?
I'm good.
All right. Well, look, I appreciate y'all coming in as always. The special projects at the end of the day, we've just got to wait and see what's left in the pot. But we do want to continue to do what we can to get you your match money to continue the drawdowns.
Thank you very much. We very much appreciate y'all's support for us over the years.
We appreciate y'all. We'll call this here and over. We'll be back on at 8:45.
All right.
Thank you.
Good deal. We appreciate all of you coming in. Enjoy your retirement. All right, we have the ag trifecta here, I think. We've got the commissioner, we've got the chairman and the former chairman. So we've got all three here today. We're going to begin the ag budget hearing. Mr. Commissioner, thank you for coming today.
Good morning. Thank
To
you.
the members of the committee, we've got Senator Berry here. We're going to have some other come in and out here and there. So forgive them as it is a deadline week coming up and they're all back and forth. But Mr. Commissioner, I'm going to let you have the floor now.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We always appreciate the opportunity to come over here and to share an update on our budget, and appreciate what the legislature does to support the efforts of the Department of Agriculture and Commerce and in the sense of funding. And I have included in your packet a few things that I want to highlight. One of them is the 38 different programs that we administer at the Department of Agriculture and Commerce. And most of these are not things that ever make any news item or people don't know about. You know, people know about our petroleum program because of the stickers and so forth. But these are 38 different programs that we administer. A lot of these are federally mandated programs that we get federal funding for. And I want to say on that note, I know federal funding has been an issue. I've listened to other agency heads talk about that. But for us, it's been an issue for quite some time. It wasn't something that happened in the Trump administration. For the last 2 years, USDA federal funding has been drying up, and there's a lot of reasons why that may have been. I won't get into the reasons, but just except to say it's having a big impact on our agency as a whole, particularly when it comes to regulatory functions. So in your packet, there is an article that was to show you. Is it in here?
That's the last page of their.
Okay, the last page of your. This is not just affecting Mississippi Department of Agriculture and our food safety as a state. It's affecting all 50 states. And so the president of the National Association of State Departments of Agriculture penned this article January 6th. Ted McKinney, he's a great guy. He is the executive director of our 50-state Ag Department organization. And this article outlines the crisis that has been coming under the USDA cuts of funding. I don't know if the funding went other places. I got theories about where it may have gone, but you saw how they ran out of disaster funding, for example. Well, they've not been sending the federal dollars at the levels that we have needed to operate for, 2-3 years now. Every year that's getting less and less. And our Director of Regulatory, Jennifer Thompson, can testify to that. And so to tell you what an impact that is, our agency, and we're proud to be 67% special fund agency. Only the balance of that is general funds. So we are majority special funds, generating our own sources of revenues. Fully one third of that 67% is federal funds. So as the federal funds have begun to dry up the last couple of years, we have had to absorb those cuts and losses, and in a way, not to cut any programs. And we've been able to do that because we run a tight ship. We are running 3 agencies now for the cost of 1, and including the fairgrounds, and we're proud of that. But I do bring that to your attention because these 38 programs that are listed here, to the extent they are federally mandated programs, and a lot of them are, and the industry is glad that we're doing them. If this USDA funding and federal funding, EPA is another one, a big source of funding. If this issue does not get resolved in the next year or 2, we will have to find other sources of revenues, or we'll have to cut some programs. And I'm ready, willing, and able to do all the above. I have developed a proposal in my mind that I'd share with y'all at some other time. I know we got other business to talk about. But for example, almost all of the fees that are generated by industry, paid by industry at the Department of Agriculture, almost all of them go to the state general fund. We never see a penny of it. That was the way it was set up in 1950-something, 1967, 1970-something. And it makes sense to me that those fees, since they are for work that is done by services performed by the Department of Ag, it makes sense to me they could be rerouted to the Department of Agriculture for the support of those programs. That is one idea. But I bring that to your attention as a big picture. We're proud of the work that we do, and our budget request reflects some key priorities for our agency. Being a special fund agency, we pay the salaries of our people are paid primarily out of our general fund request. And so you're going to see, as with every other agency, due to the SEC2 program, which we like SEC2. We think it's good policy when it was put in place. When it was passed by the legislature, we were told it would involve an up to 10% pay increase under the authority of the agency head. That was subsequently reduced to 7%. And in fact, our agency has received, I think, a 3% and a 2%, to which we have applied to the different employees. The most urgent need for us is our inspector level people. When SEC2 was put in place before all this inflation, it was a great idea, and it would have helped us attract and keep these good employees. But here today, with inflation and with the labor inflation that we've seen, our starting pay for our low inspector levels are what? $28,542 per year. So what has happened is, and our agency is like many others. We get people in, we want to pay them, we want to reward them, and we try to advance them up the ranks. But with the inability to keep and retain these inspector level folks, we have a large percentage of our workforce that's able to retire. Actually, what is that? Do you know that percentage of folks able to retire? 65% of the employees of the Department of Agriculture and Commerce have worked long enough, paid their dues into the retirement system, and they're eligible to go home. A fraction of that are the up and coming workers, and we can't pay them at a rate commensurate with the work that is necessary. So the biggest part of our request is a 7% across the board SEC2 based compensation increase that would apply to all of our inspectors. And in fact, the very first thing I did when I became commissioner in 2018, I came to this legislature in 19, because at that time our starting pay was even lower than that. It was like $19,000. And those folks had not had a raise in 12 years. This legislature approved a raise for all of our employees. And if they're listening, they know we went to bat for them, and y'all supported them, and everybody got a raise in 2019. And I want to say thank you. And I'd love to do something like that again, because it's important work, and it's important that we are able to pay people. We just can't compete. You've heard it over and over. We cannot compete not only with the private sector, we can't compete with the federal government that's hiring people out from under us as well. So I've talked about all that. The rest of I'll go over the rest of our requests here on this sheet, this piece of paper. We are requesting to take our travel back to where it was pre-COVID. And we have been operating on a COVID level travel budget, and that applies to all of our folks. Most of our folks are traveling. Most of our folks are working out of their vehicles. And we do have regulatory conferences, accreditation programs that we have to attend. And we've done what we needed to do. But it would be helpful to have that flexibility to get back, at least back to a pre-COVID travel budget. Contractual, the increase there is with respect to IT needs. We have gone toward, and for the sake of efficiency, we've moved all of our Bureau Plant Industry applications forms online. We built that out. The industry loves it. They appreciate it. And IT has been a key part of our success in finding efficiencies here and at the fairgrounds. I'll talk about that. But that is that purpose. There's maintenance to the museum, the Ag and Forestry Museum. The heaters quit working just before this cold spell, and that was not in our budget. And that is not in our budget this year to repair. I want to brag on DFA. If they're watching, I hope they are. Liz and her team do a great job. They help us where they can at Department of Finance Administration. But I'm telling you, there's limits to what they can do because so much stuff is old and breaking. And I hadn't even got into the fairgrounds yet, but it's a huge cost to maintain it. But thank you to DFA. They're helping us with those heaters at the Ag Museum, but there's other maintenance that's got to be done when you maintain a 40-acre farm and rental buildings that are made of wood. There's a lot of maintenance that's got to be done. Software, operational expenses, and contractual. That's that request, which is in essence about $800,000. And things are more expensive now than they used to be. Commodity request there, that's a reflection of things that we buy. That is again for IT supplies, for uniforms for our people. We've not purchased uniforms in 5 years, and we don't have uniforms for our new folks that are coming in, but that's okay. But we'd like to be able to do that. Printers, ag theft supplies. As you know, we have rebuilt the Ag and Livestock Theft Bureau, and we're very proud of the work Chief Dean Bernard is doing and his team. And we want to keep supporting them. They're having a lot of success, helping a lot of farmers, a lot of people around this state, and also supporting other law enforcement agencies around the state. Equipment is so that commodity request, I already covered that. Equipment is lab equipment. That's at our metrology lab where we test the scales, metrology lab on the campus of Alcorn State University. That is for other testing equipment, BPI, et cetera. We need a tractor. We need some equipment to operate not only on the fairgrounds, but at the Ag Museum. We need radios that are used by our people to communicate with. We need some more laptops and some drones. And yes, we'd like to get some more hog traps because that trap program that y'all approved has been highly successful and is in high demand, in greater demand than we can keep up with to help our farmers and landowners trap and kill hogs. Other than equipment is request building and maintenance upgrades for the fairgrounds and museum. That is something that we talked about last year. Other than equipment, we'd like to have the line item in there to $250,000 to help cover unforeseen repairs. And I'm telling you, they happen every day. Every day something breaks. When you operate a fairgrounds that was built in 1957, infrastructure is crumbling. When you have bullets flying out of the air because people are shooting up in there in Jackson, Mississippi, falling in and destroying the roof of the brand new Trade Mart, we have to fix it. And it happens every week, y'all. I'm telling you, bullets are falling. Yeah, you know, it's insane. No, it hasn't. I mean, Capitol Police, they do a great job. I bragged on DFA. I'm going to brag on Capitol Police, but there's not enough police out there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, everywhere. Now, I'll tell you one of my plans to help this. Graymont, DFA recently entered into a settlement to finalize the acquisition of that old ungodly hellhole of a hotel, that pink hotel, evil place, if there ever was one. And it's going to be bought and controlled by June the 2nd. And on June the 3rd, I'm going to have a dozer out there and I'm going to blockade that Graymont off. And we're going to close that off and make it a private road to prevent some of this through traffic. That's been a vulnerability. It is a City of Jackson road. It is a vulnerability to our campers. Some of y'all know that. It is a vulnerability to our patrons. And we had a bad guy come through there during the fair a couple of years ago, climbed over that fence off of Graymont, and thank the Lord nobody got killed, but he did go to jail. That's the kind of thing that we're gonna do to help. But that's that item there, other than equipment for unknown and unforeseen repairs that just we can't know what's going to happen. But like we didn't know the heat was going to go out at the museum, but it did. And then vehicles. Want to thank Chairman Delano. He's here, still here, was here. Thank him and thank you all, Chairman McCon, and all of you for supporting our vehicle request. We were able to find and acquire the Freightliner and all the other vehicles that y'all approved. It had been really hard to locate them post-COVID, but we did that, and we would like to get the other half, which was what we discussed last year, the other half of those needed vehicles for our agency. SLG. That is a request to purchase supplies for our various stores that we operate for the promotion of commerce and local products. That includes the Genuine Mississippi store. That includes the Ag Museum General Store. Prior to last year's session, the Ag Museum operated on the enterprise budget, out of which it could raise and spend money that it had for those purposes. Due to a change in the law and the rising cost of inventory, it's not been able to have the authority to purchase supplies, although it could sell those supplies. This would be a category to allow for additional funds in the amount of 1.2 million, basically double. It's costing twice as much now to buy what we used to buy at the general store and the other products that we have. We'll have a store to sell Mississippi products at the upcoming trade shows during the Dixie National, and the people love it, the businesses love it, and we like to help them. They can't close up their shop in Poplarville, Mississippi, and come up here and sell their products. So we do that as a function of our market development program. So all of that together is a little less than $5 million. As I mentioned, about $1.5 million of it is salary request. We understand the constraints. I serve in the legislature. I know the budget constraints. I know the demanding needs of all the different things. And we understand if you can't do a 7%, but anything you can do, I want you to know I'm committed to applying it to our workers that I am here to support because they do great work. I do have a little talk about the fairgrounds if you'd like an update on that, or I can save that for later. I can take questions.
Mr. Chairman, you just stepped in. I know you're going to be in and out. Do you have any quick questions for him before we move in? Go ahead and do your fairgrounds and go ahead and do your fairgrounds, and then let's get back to questions.
Okay. So on the fairgrounds, as you know, 5 years ago, the fairgrounds called me when it was a fair commission and said they were going to have to close their doors August the 12th, 2020, because they were run out of money. This Senate and the Mississippi House of Representatives and the Lieutenant Governor supported a way to save the fairgrounds. We have done that. We have rebuilt made a lot of improvements. And I'll tell you, I spent 2 days this week, yesterday and the day before, walking the fairgrounds, and the people who are there showing their livestock appreciate the improvements that have been made. And we couldn't have done it without your support. But our goal has been to get the fairgrounds. Our director, Michael Lassiter, stepped in with no notice 5 years ago, has done a great job rebuilding the program. Our Trade Mart now is up and running. It is our most rented facility. We actually went up on all of our rates across the board last year to adjust for inflation. A lot of people complained about it, but when our costs go up, I mean, we have to have some way to pay for it. We're not going to subsidize it or continue to subsidize it. So we got to the fairgrounds to a point to which it is, I mean, the two big events that pay for the fairgrounds, and it could not exist without the State Fair and the Dixie National. All right. Those two events are our events. They are state of Mississippi events. We are sponsors and partners with the rodeo, and they pay, let's see, last fiscal year 24, the fair paid 45% of the cost of having the state fairgrounds, and the rodeo paid 16.8%. The rodeo is growing. We set another record yesterday. We're going to have record revenues coming in. At the same time, it costs more to do these livestock shows and rodeo. The livestock show, it goes from January all the way through February, and we support it. It's not a money maker. It is an expense, but it's important because we're supporting what I view the state's best workforce development program, our 4-H and FFA youth. So the fairgrounds is to the point today. It's on the same footing that the Ag Museum is. It is generating funds to pay for its operational costs. We are paying the salaries of Director Michael Lassiter and the other people who work there and their benefits. And that's exactly how the Ag Museum operates. The department pays the salaries. It pays the operational cost. What it does not generate is the hugely expensive cost of repairs that are necessary due to the crumbling infrastructure on the fairgrounds. So if you ask me why there's so much expense on the fairgrounds, the reason is every time we turn around, something's tearing up, and it's not something that is a quick patch. And I asked Michael to be here today. He can talk about some examples. The roof is one example, just a small example, but there's always something to be done. We put our own water system in on the fairgrounds years ago that has allowed us to maintain operations even when all the pipes on Jefferson Street bust like they did this week. It never interrupted our livestock shows. The cows had water. The sheep had water, don't they, Andy Berry? And we're proud of that. But at this point in time, we're operating the fairgrounds as if it were another division. Again, paying the salaries, but it's paying its own operational costs. But that's all it can pay. The House chairman asked me, why is it so expensive? Well, it's because it's, almost 100 years old. It is 100 years old. The infrastructure underneath the fairgrounds is crumbling. I want to thank y'all for the support you gave last year to repair the barn 14 roof. The DFA, all that goes through DFA. They tell me it'll be complete end of June of this fiscal year. The funds that y'all gave for Mississippi Street has got hung up in the process. And I want to be clear, I'm not blaming DFA. If I think I was clear not to blame DFA, but there is a broken process. The designers and whoever came back with this DFA proposal of Mississippi Street, I thought we were just going to pave it. And they came back with all these curbs and everything and saying it's going to cost another $2.5 million. I won't beat a dead horse on that, but I can tell you, having built the Trade Mart and gone through that process, I swore I would never, ever build a state building again because, and having grown up in the construction business, I know what it takes to build something. And I know it's costing the taxpayers 3 times as much money and it's taking twice as long. So those are things that are policy decisions way beyond my authority. But I would tee that up for you, and I'm hopeful that I think there is a meeting or has been a meeting about this Mississippi Street. Did y'all come to an agreement with them on that? Today at 4:00. You're welcome to get with these folks and go trying to figure out what can be done on that. And then there was another project. I talked about Graymont, didn't I? I think that was it. All right. Let me make sure I don't have anything else to cover. What's that? The wireless project. Y'all appropriated the funds to do the Wi-Fi. It is up and operational. It is working in a beta test level right now. I got on it yesterday in the sheep barn and it worked. So I encourage you all to test it out, but it is high-speed Wi-Fi broadband that y'all appropriated funds to. It took 2 years to get it done, working through the process, but that project is done. And that was phase 1. Phase 2 is to bring it to the entire 105 acres of the fairgrounds, but that's where that stands. All right. That's anything else. Thank you all.
Mr. Commissioner, we appreciate your presentation. I'm going to start and let our committee start the conversation. And I've got some questions over here that I absolutely want to talk to you about. Committee members, you do have the updated request before you, I believe. Emily made sure you got that. We got that, I believe, yesterday about 4:00. So just be sure you have the updated request from the commissioner. So
Senators Thompson and Tate, this actually is historic. So what Senator Chairman Hobson is, yes, sir. Yeah.
So Chairman Hobson, do you want to start the line of question? I saw you pull your
I pulled the
mic.
mic because I was going to ask the commissioner about the Mississippi Street and the roof, and you've addressed those. So
Yep.
Thank you. I wanted to see how we were progressing on those 2 projects.
Have you seen this document?
Have not seen
I'm
that.
gonna give
no.
it to you. That's the DFA architect rendering of what they're proposing for Mississippi Street. And again, we got quotes last year. Michael did for $3.5 million to resurface it and to do a little drainage, but they're coming back with this recommendation includes a whole lot more than that. You see in the shortfall that they're recommending.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Do you think the curb and gutters is needed from your experience
No,
down
sir.
there? You think?
No, sir. I think it would be problematic. We have people hauling cow
All
trailers,
streets.
horse trailers, riding horses across there. This is not a pedestrian area. Matter of fact, it would be a hindrance to have all those curbs in the way. It needs to be like it is now. It would also interfere with our already short parking situation.
Okay. Yeah, it kind
my
of stood
opinion.
out. It stood out to me as maybe being unnecessary, but I'm not a construction person and I'm certainly don't want to get in the middle of talking to, dealing with engineers and people
Right.
that know that a lot better than I would. But I did see it from across the table and looked like it may have been a little,
Yeah.
little more than what I would have expected. And the roof's coming along.
The roof is, it has been let out to contract, and they told me it would be done before this fiscal year was out, because I needed to know whether that had to be reappropriated. They said it'll be done the end of June.
Okay. Yeah, that's all I wanted to ask.
Thank you.
Commissioner.
Appreciate you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman. Anybody else from the committee? Senator Barry, if you got any questions? You're gonna let me start, huh? I do have some questions, Commissioner.
All right,
And as a whole, I have a heart for agriculture. It's what
good.
my family, matter of fact, we had to call this morning about some cows that weren't ours, thank goodness, on the road.
It's all ag theft.
No, I'm not worried about them. Somebody else will find them.
That's right.
So I do have a few questions. I appreciate the SPB sheet. That is instrumental this year, and it's
Mhm.
become one of the greatest assets we've got. Commissioner, Chairman, if you need to slip out, I understand. I do think you need to look at this just a little bit. I don't understand, and you tell me if I'm missing something. Commissioner of Ag and Commerce has got a progression in here, and I'm pretty sure it's set by statute. So I don't understand how we're getting $11,000 increase on commissioner's salary when that is set by statute.
That was, not meant to be.
Okay, well, that needs
We're-
to be pulled on that. Sorry, Commissioner, but I think you
I'm maxed
deserve
out,
another
brother.
10,000.
I hadn't got a raise till y'all gave one, and I'm not getting another one till y'all give me. Yeah.
Way down.
Well, so we need to get those pulled and get that cleaned up. Also on that sheet, I have questions about regulatory. You've mentioned to me, that you need more assistance there. From what I see though, the only assistance, that we're actually adding on regulatory would be one position under Consumer Protection Specialist 2, there, and then just progression money. If we're having that much trouble on the regulatory side, why aren't we focusing on adding some more staff there?
Well, we are actually. If you look at the first one, that Consumer Protection Specialist 1 is a meat inspection. That is that's two different people. We have attorney 1 there for the purpose of supporting regulatory compliance that we would like to have, with the growing number of regulations. And then, as you mentioned, the 2 positions there for Consumer Protection 2, that's in the seed lab. That's actually on our Mississippi State campus. And also, I would throw that, the last one, Ag Market Supervisor, Deputy Director, that is a much needed position at the Bureau of Plant Industry on Mississippi State campus, which 100% of that is regulatory. So actually 6, I think, of those 10 positions are regulatory.
All right, we just had them, noted by agency, by, split program within your agency here.
Right.
So you're saying you think you need another attorney? Are you utilizing the AG's office for anything?
We do, we had an in-house attorney that
Still got one, don't you?
we had, well, what I'm saying is they were relocated to whatever building they're in. I forget which building they're in, but we brought in one of our in-house attorneys to keep them on site. And so we have one here and we have one over there. And we see a growing number of, routine regulatory things, but they're just time consuming in addition to some extraordinary things that may crop up from time to time. But yeah, my attorneys have said we need somebody. So we are requesting that. I think, is this one that we used to have, but it got taken away, the position?
Well, we were looking for someone for the.
Okay. Yeah, we were looking for a BPI attorney. We're paying one on contract, so this would be an employment attorney versus paying one on contract to do the regulatory compliance at the Bureau of Plant Industry.
Okay. My next questions for you here. Gotta get back to my other notes. So, I think, there's a question as to last year we funded some new inspector positions, some peanut inspector. They were supposed to help in that area. Did we get those in place? Did we resolve the problem we were having with our peanut farmers that weren't able to get their inspections on a reasonable amount of time?
Well, we didn't have a problem with peanut inspectors not getting their inspections done. I don't remember that we got any positions. We didn't get any new positions. We weren't awarded any new inspectors by y'all.
All right, well, I think there's gonna be another line of question on that. Senator Younger, do you want to ask any more on that?
Well, I had a recent conversation with Brian, but yeah, go.
What I was told was, when they inspect the peanuts, they need to probe the trucks in several spots. They were probing them one time. They didn't want to stay late. Of course, when you're harvesting, last year did turn out to be a dry year, so they were able to have harvesting quicker, and I mean, you know, it worked well, but if it had been raining spots like it usually is, they would have had trouble. Does Birdsong reimburse the state when we pay for the inspectors?
That Birdsong pays for the overtime. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jennifer, but Birdsong will reimburse the state just for any overtime. Is that correct? Okay, and so if I could restate that, I'm not sure anybody could hear. The Birdsong does pay tonnage, and their payment does help cover the overtime. This is a purely federal, this is one of those federal programs. We're not getting, I mean, we're losing money on this program, but we want to do it because we're losing money on the peanut program, but we want to support it because it's important for the industry of the state of Mississippi, for the peanut farmers. I don't, I
thought they were happy to pay overtime and everything.
They are. Yeah, they are. They're very happy. We, like I said, I don't know that the only issue I know about that particular facility is that it only has 4 machines. So they only have 4 testing machines. And I've actually been there and went in the room. So you can only have 4 of these probes going at one time. You can probe 4 trucks, do the test. But no, we did not get any additional inspectors for that. And but we'd be happy to welcome them. And we have people that work there. They work long hours. They don't work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, but they do work long hours. They do work overtime, and they're happy to commute back and forth. Now, I had a recent conversation with Birdsong about this, Mr. Chairman, and I think we may have a program that they may have some ideas on ways to make it more efficient. So we're working with them on that.
Very good. I think that helps continue the conversation. And I think you and Senator Younger may, or Mr. Chairman of Highways over there, may be able to have you additional conversations on that. You mentioned travel. Of course, your original request had about a $400,000 travel budget, which is pretty excessive. Your updated request now has come in at 147. I pulled the last rounds of travel, and it looks like in 23 we were at 83. 24 we're at 75,000, which this year we're at 45 so far. 17 is 55, 18 was 88, 20 was at 80. Our outside the variable is going to be 19. We're at 131. Gas is going up. I understand that. Travel costs have gone up some. I do think we're going to have to look at something a little different. I think LBR is looking at you about 122. So maybe we can find a happy medium somewhere in there.
We'll be happy to find a happy medium. I asked Jennifer to come because there are different conferences that we're actually required to attend to get different federal certifications, and you don't have to go every year, but there are some that are coming up we will have to attend, and those are going to be, they're going to be costly. And Jennifer, can I get you all the details on those?
I think you got about 45,000 left out there for the rest of the year. Surely, hopefully we can make it off of that. Right.
Metrology certification has been a good example.
We definitely want to keep that up. Senator Barry, you were writing a lot of stuff down. You sure you don't have a question over there?
Well, I didn't want to take any of your
No,
time.
you're fine. You go ahead and ask the next one.
And I didn't write, but just three words down, on my sheet. So, Commissioner, you know, I'm a supporter of agriculture by all means. And, I think your department regulatory and in my interactions, the Ag Theft Bureau are probably two of the main focus areas that I think that, that you do there that benefit our farmers more than probably anything. And so I appreciate the salary progression request for the inspectors. I hear from that routinely. You also have the request for additional ones. Do we need to pay the ones we got more before we start bringing more on, or
Well, that's a great question. The answer is yes and no. We need to pay the ones we have more right now, yesterday. But as you know, we have been successful in tripling the number of meat processing facilities that we have in the state. And those now USDA facilities are going to require inspectors. We've been able to manage that, but as we have people retire, one of our requests is for 2 new inspectors to help staff those processing facilities, which is mandated by federal law. So it's important to get those as well, those 2 meat inspectors. And Jennifer, anything, catfish, anything like that we should mention? Okay, that's that.
okay, on the ag theft, they do wonderful work, and I appreciate what they do. How does their salaries rank compared to other law enforcement agencies, say Capitol Police or deputies or things like that?
Well, what do we have now? 9, 10? I think we have 10 with a new, y'all granted us a new one last year, and we filled that and got the equipment for that. Their salaries, bear with me. Law enforcement salaries have gone way up since COVID, as you all know. I mean, but our people are current start salary is $43,509.31. We are requesting a start salary of $46,554, and then it's broken down by years of service, and it goes from 1 to 4 at 49.8, all the way up to over 24 of 74.7. So I'll give you that to look at it. That's where it stands today. But those start salaries are really not competitive with a lot of the different agencies that are hiring law enforcement these days. So
That's the same amount that a Simpson County deputy starts at, is 43,000.
But our people are committed. They like this work. They like the work that they're doing, and they do a good job at it. But any pay increase for them would be well appreciated, and probably would help us retain them longer.
One last question, if we have time, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman. The fairgrounds is visible facility here, and one that I don't know if I'm gonna say unfortunately, but I spend a lot of time down there outside of this building. Is it realistic, and I've never had this conversation before, but is it realistic to expect that facility to be self-sufficient on its own in today's times?
No, sir. Because of the 105 acres, the infrastructure that it has presently that is crumbling apart every day, it's going to generate, and we've gotten it to the point to generate between $6 and $7 million. But DFA gave me a quote, and you can check me out on this. For all of the state buildings and properties, they budget $5 per square foot for every building for annual routine maintenance. If you apply that to the fairgrounds, it's $7 million every year for routine maintenance. That's more than we're bringing in, than it actually would bring in terms of rentals. So that alone tells me it is not going, if it were to stand on its own feet, yes, it can stand on its own feet. It did for a long time, but it was falling down and falling apart, and nothing was getting fixed. When I went over there, every chair in the Coliseum was falling down. I was watching the rodeo, and mine fell out from under me. My butt hit the ground. It was that bad. Y'all have supported to make improvements. We've been doing patchwork over there. There is a need for some desperate, intensive capital improvements there for it to repair what needs to be repaired. And at that point, it might. I mean, if you had a modern facility, if you had updated facilities, it would definitely be worth more in terms of rent, but it also could not have to absorb all those costs. Director Laster, would you add anything to what I just said? We have very small staff.
think we get ahead a little bit, oh, we got 20,000 over into something breaks. We have a lot of infrastructure issues.
Yeah. I tell people, and we did develop a master plan. Y'all asked us to do that 4 years ago. It's been here, looked at. I tell people what we do is what Johnny Cash wrote a song about, one piece at a time. We just piecing it together, patching it one piece at a time. And we can do that, and it can do that. But long term, it's something will have to be done in terms of the capital repairs that are necessary for a nearly 100-year-old facility.
So, and I appreciate that. I know the staffing difficulties. I see the director routinely at 7 o'clock on a Sunday morning out there picking up trash himself. So I do appreciate your hard work and your staffs. Recently, I remember seeing something on the news that there was a seating, talking about chairs at the Fordyce Center. Do y'all have a plan for that? You may have said that. I just don't remember.
We have made extensive repairs to the ceiling of the Fordyce Center that was falling out. We've gotten quotes on these chairs in the past. We want to replace them, but we don't have the funding to do it. We'd love to get that done.
What that quote is
It's a $500,000 quote to by way of comparison, we've totally renovated that Coliseum with y'all support, all new seating, $2 million. So this is $500,000 for the Equine Center. Probably just the seating. We're not doing anything else. We did a lot more to it. Yeah. Yeah. The Equine Center never was finished. I don't know if most people know that, but it never was fully finished. So there've been some infrastructure issues there, parking, et cetera.
Real quick, one last question. It may have been last year or the year before. I hear rumors of inspectors not being able to travel or leave their home due to lack of funding. They're told to stay home. Is that something that's happened?
A couple of years ago, we were in a position without the without the budget authority to do that. Y'all remedied that for us, and we appreciate it. But yeah, our inspectors, it was a couple of years ago, we had a real tight authority situation.
Commissioner, I'm on, Chairman Younger has another question over here.
I just, I go by the Ag Museum every time I come back and forth to Jackson, and it is all wood.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Could we not move it to the fairgrounds and just have a smaller Ag Museum and do something else with that? And I mean, I just think that's does it pay for itself? Do many students go there every?
Yes, we have 200,000 students going to the Ag Museum. I think it would be met with some pretty great resistance to talk about moving that, because there are people who invested. We have a foundation out there that's investing funds for that program, and if you ask people, they'll tell you it looks better than it has in a long time, and it's because we've made it a priority. But it does pay for its operational expenses through rentals. It is paying for its operational costs. But again, we pay for the salaries of the employees. That's exactly how it operates, and it has always operated, and that's how the fairgrounds could operate going forward.
So it does sustain itself.
Yes, sir. It generates a quite substantial.
Could we get a breakdown of that?
Yeah.
Just sometime in the future, not right now, just sometime in the future.
Hayes used to run the Ag Museum.
Before we get too far into the rabbit hole here, y'all, we got the real boss in the room's got a question here in a second, and I want to let him do that. You did a private loss sheet for the fairgrounds, and I would like to get back to that right after he gets done with this question. So let's just do a private loss for the Ag Museum as well.
Yeah.
Thank y'all for, I guess, breaking down y'all's requests on the most recently submitted one, just by category and detail. I think it would help them as far as making decisions, possibly ranking some of the priorities and looking at what's one time, what's recurring funding, because it is a lot of different requests in a lot of different areas. And some of it's special funds you're requesting for, some of it's general funds. So just having some type of ranking or
Priority list.
priority
We'll do
list,
that. We'll get that
by,
done.
by fund type and what's recurring, what's not recurring. Just because just looking at it, it is a lot of detail, but it's hard to make a decision on
Because
all of these different items. 'Cause they
it's-
are needed.
they are. I mean, it's the 38 programs that we have
Yeah.
that we're trying to keep going. And yeah, so we'll boil it down to what our key priorities. I can already tell you one of those is to fix the heat at the Ag Museum and some other repair. But
Yeah,
the
just
salaries,
just looking at it, it's hard to
yeah,
tell if that's really needed. So yeah, that would help. Thank you.
thank you.
All right, I'm gonna stop here. We got to get Grand Gulf in before 10. But Mr. Commissioner, we appreciate you. I think we've had an in-depth discussion today.
I want to thank you. I want to say thank you for your support. You really did help us last year to have the authority we needed to keep going with the inflationary pressures that we'd felt. And we're committed to keep doing whatever we need to do to support our farmers and commerce. So thank y'all. I appreciate y'all's support and God bless you and the great state of Mississippi. Thank you.